quit wasting time. Don't waste your damn life. You really want to wake up and figure out that you're wasting half your life? Those who have swords and know how to use them, but keep them sheathed, will inherit the world. You should be a monster. You know, because everyone says, well, you should be harmless, virtuous. You shouldn't do anyone any harm. You should sheath your competitive instinct. You shouldn't try to win. You know, you don't want to be too aggressive. You don't want to be too assertive. You want to take a back seat and all of that. It's like, no. Wrong. You should be a monster, an absolute monster, and then you should learn how to control it. One definition of a winner is someone who never let losing stop them.
Yes.
You know, and the idea that a single loss in a competition is somehow a defeat is completely insane. First of all, well, let's say you're a hockey player and you're a good player and you lose the tournament. It's like, well, so what? You played the game. You're increasing your skills. It's like there's always next time. There's a hole in our culture where there should be a discussion about maturity, truth, and responsibility. No one's talking about that. Okay, so now I'll come up and I'll start talking about that. I'll say, look, like, what should you do with your life? Well, take care of yourself, but take care of yourself in a way that also means that simultaneously you're taking care of your family, and also means that simultaneously you're taking care of the broader community. So that's kind of your goal. So orient yourself towards that. Personal success, but in a way that your success breeds success. Because if you're going to establish an aim, why not establish like a really good aim? That's a good one. It's good for you, it's good for everyone else. Yes. Now make a plan, generate a vision. That's what the Future Authoring Program helps people with. Develop a vision of what your life could be like if it was worth living, despite all its suffering. It's like, what would you need so that you would be happy to be alive? You think real hard. How would you have to configure your life so that despite its suffering and the malevolence that's part of it, that you would regard it as worthwhile? So that's up to you to develop a vision. Then put a plan into practice. So you wake up in the morning, your consciousness reemerges from the darkness in which it's been embedded, like the sun coming up. This is why consciousness has always been associated with the sun. We're daytime creatures, and we're creatures of vision. And so we identify consciousness with the light, with illumination, with enlightenment. You wake up in the morning, and what do you have in front of you? Well, it depends whether you're excited or worried, but it doesn't really matter, because it's the same thing. What you have in front of you, this is as far as I can tell, is that you have a field of possibility. You have a field of potential. You might wake up and worry. You think, well, I have to do this, or, you know, this series of negative consequences might emerge, and I have these obligations that need to be taken care of for the same reason. Duties, you know, tax bills that have to be opened before they turn into some sort of terrible monster, or work requirements that need to be done for the same reason, to keep chaos at bay. And that'll run through your mind, and if it's overwhelming, if there's too much chaos in your life, you might wake up in the middle of the night and have all that running through your head. You have all this potential of what could be manifesting itself in front of you. And that can be very stressful. It can also be very exciting, right? Because the flip side of that obligation is opportunity, and so you see in front of you this field of potential that's opportunity. But what you see, as far as I can tell, with your consciousness is the potential that could be, right? You see a sequence of worlds that you have some causal ability to bring into being. And you act like that. You think, well, I have to do this because then this will happen, or if I don't do this, then this will happen. And hopefully, if you're not too skewed, most of the decisions you make are positive ones, because you want to take the potential that's in front of you, the chaos, and you want to turn it into a reality that's good. And most of the time, you're going to assume, although you may be tempted not to from time to time, that the best way to do that is to confront that potential forthrightly and to deal with it in a positive and truthful manner, and that the hopeful consequence of that will be that, well, even if you don't produce something good, it will be less hellish than it might have been, right? But maybe you'll get lucky because you're focused and you're doing your best and you're confronting what's there as potential, and you turn it into something good, and then you can live with yourself properly, and you don't wake up in the middle of the night and bemoan your lost opportunities and your lost possibilities. And so I think that what we are as individuals are spirits that confront the potential of reality and transform it into the actuality of reality as a consequence of our ethical decisions. You can try to stop people from winning crookedly, which is what you should do. And you know, there's a couple of things that are really worth delving into with regards to that too, because there's this sort of Marxist notion that all this inequality is generated as a consequence of capitalism. And that's actually technically false. Because if you look at, there seems to be something like a law of nature that's described by this statistical model called the Pareto distribution. And it basically suggests that in any creative domain, there's going to be a small number of people will do almost all of the output. But it doesn't just apply to human beings. It applies to the heights of trees in the Amazon rainforest. It applies to the size of cities, and it applies to the mass of stars, and it's something like the more you have, the more you get. It's something like, you can imagine how that would work with a star. As it gets bigger and bigger and its gravitational mass increases, it's going to attract more and more matter. And then as a city grows, well, more and more people are excited to move there because of all the opportunities. And so some cities start to grow tremendously and others don't. But this phenomena where a small number of people end up controlling tremendous proportion of the resource is not only limited to money, and it doesn't only occur in capitalist societies, it occurs everywhere. It's like a natural law. So you see the same thing with number of points scored by a spectacular sports figure. There's always a tiny proportion of people who are way ahead on the curve, or people who make records, or people who sell paintings. It's the 1% gets 80%. The idea that life isn't a game, it's a series of games. And the right ethic is to be the winner of the series of games. And part of that means you have to learn how to be a good loser, because you're not going to win every single game. 6 hours a day. It's 42 hours a week. So let's call that a work week, 40 hours a week. So that's a work week. Let's say, what's your time worth? You're a university student. Well, it's certainly worth minimum wage, because obviously, but it's worth way more than that, because if you spend a productive hour when you're 20, then you gain the benefits of that hour for the rest of your life. So there's the compounding effect of time spent when we were young. So I say, well, let's assume your time's worth $50 an hour, which I think is an underestimate, but whatever. Let's call it 50. We could call it 25, but we'll call it 50. If that's $2,000 a week you're wasting. It's $100,000 a year. It's like, how much better would your life be if you weren't wasting $100,000 a year? It's like, what is that over 40 years? $4 million. It's like, you're rich. You don't even know it. Quit wasting time. Don't waste your damn life. You really want to wake up and figure out that you're wasting half your life? Let's say you're not studying well, and so we do a real analysis of how much you're studying. You say, well, I go to the library 4 hours a day. It's like, yeah, okay. How much time do you actually study in the library? Well, I waste time. I have to travel there. I look at my phone. It's like, okay, well, how much? 15 minutes? Half an hour? How much is real studying? Well, maybe we figure out it's 15 minutes. Say, okay, so what you're going to do for 1 week is you're going to study for half an hour. That's all. You don't get to go to the library for 4 hours. You have to sit down. We'll figure out a time, 10 o'clock in the morning, whatever. We'll put it in your schedule. Try to study for half an hour, no more. And then just come back and let's have a conversation about how well that worked. And people will come back and they say, well, you know, I managed it 4 days, and one day I went over, and one day I couldn't do it at all. It's like, okay, that's better. Instead of 75 minutes of studying, 15 minutes a day for 7 days, what is that? 15, 70, 105 minutes. You've managed about 210 minutes. So you've already produced an improvement of 50% in your bumbling, horrible way. You've got a 50% improvement in 1 week. It's like, that's deadly.